And that's what these documents will do, hopefully, when implemented by council. Okay, so how does the provincial policy statement intend to achieve strong, clean, healthy communities? Well, first of all, it focuses growth within settlement areas, away from significant and sensitive resources in areas that may pose risk to public health and safety. So, okay, it's focusing growth in our existing settlement areas. So, Grand Bend, Bedford, Arcona, Forest. That's where we want our growth and development. Those are our settlement areas. Okay? And it's taking it away from our agricultural land, our natural environment, and from the hazardous areas we have in this municipality, shorelines, rivers. So it's going to our existing settlement areas. Reason is that we want a compact form of development. We don't want to keep gobbling up land. It recognizes that wise management of development may involve directing, promoting, and sustaining growth to meet a full range of current and future needs while achieving efficient development patterns. So we're looking internally. Okay, so efficient development patterns optimize the use of lands, resources, and public investment in infrastructure and public service facilities. So if we don't allow this land use, residential, commercial to expand out this way and we keep it compact, our investment in our infrastructure becomes less too because we're not extending pipes all over the place. Efficient land use patterns promote a mix of housing, employment, lands, parks and open space, and transportation choices that facilitate pedestrian mobility and other modes of travel. So, and I think we've actually, in this term of this council, the idea of interconnection between communities and paths and trails has really come to the forefront. So we're already started down that path. Okay? We're already trying to link our communities, link different areas of our communities by providing for pedestrian, bicycle access. I mean, we've had that conversation quite a bit. Efficient land use also supports the financial well-being of the province and municipalities over the long term and minimizes the undesirable effects of development on air, water, and other resources. So the more compact we are, the less people drive, the less pipes in the ground, all kinds of things that impact our environment, less impact on natural heritage, agriculture. Okay, so the provincial policy statement has 4 different sections. The first one is building strong communities. The second one is wise use and management of resources. Section 3, protecting public health and safety. And 4 is implementation and interpretation. Today in this presentation, I didn't get into implementation and interpretation because I think we'll talk about that when we complete the OP, and then we can decide, how we're going to implement what we have to do under the PPS. I think it's more important to understand the direction of the PPS than the technical aspects of implement. Okay, so there's 4 sections, but there's no implied priority in the PPS. Just because one is before the other doesn't mean it's more important. Okay, so our first section is building strong communities. So I've already talked about it. The province feels that environmental health and social well-being depends on us wisely managing our communities and wisely planning them. And they're saying in this PPS and directing us to use our land efficiently, use our servicing efficiently, so we can protect our assets, our environment, and our agricultural land. And so we have healthy communities.
Patty, can I ask you a question
Yep.
before you go? I just find that interesting in light of the latest announcement of what it's costing to cancel the gas plant out of Mississauga and Oakville. From your personal opinion as a planner, how did that get to that stage with the PPS? How did it ever get there to that stage where it cost that much money to cancel the darn thing? It was almost completed. What happened?
Not a planning issue, but it's contract. They had a contract with someone to...
No, but in terms of healthy, livable, safe communities...
But you see, that's alternate energy. And alternate energy is...
Trumps this.
We'll get there eventually,
Okay.
but
All right.
renewable energy forms is in here and they're to be promoted. Okay, and the Green Energy Act, we all know the Green Energy Act, it pushes all of that. So that's the province's goal at this point. That's one of their major goals, is to have green energy in the province of Ontario. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. I got to see you guys decide on election day whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah. Councillor Underwood.
Yeah, I apologize for interrupting, but you might answer this later on, but I'm going to ask now.
For the PPS, and they come up with a provincial policy statement, and we have to come under the provincial policy statement, so that means that all of our milestones and what we do to grade how we're doing, like right now, it's like how many shovels are in the ground, that's about the only way we know if we're doing well or bad by development. But if we're changing the direction of development, from greenfield development to brownfield development, whatever, what are the milestones and to verify success of the provincial policy statement, what are they using? And should we be
Well,
looking at that as well?
of course, in smaller communities, it's a lot harder to judge, right? If we were in the middle of the city of Toronto, it would be pretty easy to judge whether we're intensifying, and we could judge the amount of land consumption. I think it's important for us to look at what we have. Okay, let's use I always like to use Grand Bend as a perfect example, because it's a very linear development, okay? Grand Bend's developed linearly, really, along Highway 21. Within Grand Bend, we have a lot of underdeveloped properties. We've got large lots on Highway 21 that have one house on it. Okay? That's what the province is saying. Look internally. Look at those areas where you've got an underutilization of land. You have a service sitting right at the front door. Why don't you redevelop those before you go to greenfield? Because you've already invested in servicing. So let's look at those options first. Shouldn't be hard for Lambton Shores to look internally into the areas in our settlement areas that are underutilized and underdeveloped. Should be very easy for us to do that. In fact, that's where we should be directing people to go. Okay? So that's how we would do it, Martin. And I guess at the end of the day, I don't know, every year, every 2 years, we can have a synopsis of where were we 2 years ago. Here's what's developed. Here's where it's developed.
So we look at our densities and our
Yeah.
paths and how little agricultural land we lost versus buildings. Okay. Thanks. Just wondering.
Okay, so section 111 states that healthy, livable, and safe communities are sustained by 1, promoting efficient development and land use patterns, which I've just talked about. Accommodating a range and mix of residential, employment, and recreational open space uses to meet long-term needs. So we're not just looking at residential, we're looking at all the things that go to support residential land. Okay? So businesses, open space, recreation, and we have to look long-term. Our plan is supposed to be a 20-year plan. That's what the direction is. We're supposed to look 20 years in advance. Okay. We're going to avoid development and land use patterns which may cause environmental or public health and safety concerns, and those which prevent the efficient expansion of our settlement areas. So we're going to stay out of hazard areas. We're going to stay away from the shoreline. Okay, we're going to have to stay and protect our public health and safety, and that's where we can't develop. And we're also going to ensure that on the edges of our communities, we don't put uses, for example, a great big industrial complex where we know we want our residential development to go. So we're going to be looking at the long term. Where do we really want things to be in our municipality?
Good question. So what happens if the retirees that are interested in moving to this area are looking for something along the shoreline or in the wooded environmental areas, and we're not allowing it, but all the other areas, Clinton, Wyoming, and St. Clair and others are all doing building there, so we lose a lot of development. So
Why
because
would
we're not
the other
developing around.
municipalities be doing that? It's contrary to the provincial policy statement.
They're not allowed to do it. They're allowed to do it. It's just not. It doesn't say you can't build along the shoreline.
Well, yes, it says you have to be consistent with the direction in the provincial policy statement. It says you can't build in hazardous areas.
Well, you can build back enough from them. There's a distance back that you can build, which is acceptable.
Which is out of hazard.
Yeah, that's
Right.
right. Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that we're not tight to the shoreline, but that's the idea that we want to still encourage where people will come, right? We want to have development which is attractive to this demographic that wants to come.
Well, you can have that as long as it meets the intention of the provincial policy statement.
Right.
It has to be
Just-
consistent.
Yeah, so we don't want to cut it too far back. We still want to be, we still want to allow it to the fullest extent as possible, right?
To the full extent that's allowed by
That's
the
allowed.
policy
Yeah,
direction.
yes. Just so that we're on the same page.
But it's
I
not-
just want to be sure that
it's-
you're not saying nothing along the shoreline, nothing. We are, there's a